Hello there, Brick Fanatics. Is it just me, or does the Twilight Lego set not make the best first impression? I'm trying hard not to be overly critical of a Lego set that we just have a few scant pictures of at this moment in time, but it's hard to deny it is just kind of a big brown brick. Because I remember the LEGO Ideas team talking about fan designer Lobster Thermidor's original project when it was first announced that this was going to be approved as an official LEGO set, and I remember them saying how excited they were not just for the Twilight brand, but because the house itself is such a gorgeous piece of architecture that it was going to be really fun to turn that into LEGO. And I've got to say, looking at Lobster Thermidor's design, and then looking at the finished build, I feel like we've had a major trade down there. I don't feel like the opportunities created by this very modern house have really been met. Because it's absolutely true, there is something of a dearth of modern houses in LEGO. We get a lot of slightly older houses, things that have a little bit more character and a little bit more old world charm, but it is very rare to get something that is sleek and shiny and glassy and metally and not filled with little additional details on the facades. Hoke House, which is the house used for filming in the Twilight films, is an architectural marvel. It is something that has won many awards. It is a really cool house to see. It is a really nice minimalist, modernist house design, and it looks fantastic, and it was very exciting to think about getting that house in LEGO, quite aside from anything to do with Twilight. There are a couple of other modernist LEGO houses that are currently on the market, a Creator 3-in-1 set, and then you've got Andrea's Mansion from the LEGO Friends theme, and both of those sets are brilliant and really interesting because they show off an architectural style that you don't normally see in LEGO, but both of them are limited somewhat by the fact that they don't have the world's largest piece count. And so the LEGO Twilight house was an opportunity for the LEGO designers to give us a really nice fleshed out modernist house. And looking at Lobster Thermidor's designs, I can see where there were things that needed to be fixed and tweaked, and I feel like in some areas it felt a little bit sparse, and I remember looking at these pictures and thinking, yeah, this, once it gets a little bit more polished, this could be really, really neat. But a lot of the atmosphere here in these photos, with the dark black and the dark brown, that feels like it's lost in the translation to the finished model, which uses much lighter colours, a grey and a lighter shade of brown, and therefore doesn't feel quite so imposing, quite so moody, quite so modern gothic, I guess you could almost call this. This design, it just feels kind of flat by comparison. Now, there has clearly been some updating and redesigning in here that adds to the set as well. It feels like there's a lot more going on inside this structure, although, again, we've only got a few pictures at this point, so it's hard to exactly tell everything that's going on in this three-story house. But it does feel like there's a little bit more life to it, where Lobster Thermidor's design feels just a little bit sparse by comparison. The challenge is really just the outside, which due to that minimalist design feels like just you're stacking bricks on top of each other rather than adding any kind of neat additional greebling or facade to this. And as said, the similarly designed Creator 3-in-1 set and Andrea's Mansion both have a lot more going on the outer facade so that they feel like they're a little bit more varied and a little bit more interesting and more eye-catching. But okay, architecture fans are probably a minor part of the audience for this LEGO set. The larger consumer base is going to be Twilight fans, because finally here is Twilight in LEGO form. The problem is, I'm not sure how great this is as an adaptation of Twilight either. These minifigures rub me up the wrong way a little bit, in ways that a lot of particularly female minifigure faces do. If you look at the initial pictures that are going to be everywhere for this set, you are going to see an awful lot of slightly smirking, otherwise fairly nondescript faces. You've got several here which look almost identical. The biggest offenders here being Bella and Alice, who, these minifigure faces, they're so similar. I would have sworn they are the same minifigure face had I not really looked closely at it and noticed that they have slightly different eyebrows, and Bella's got a slightly thicker mouth crease. But this is where I feel like it's a bad first impressions case, because if you turn a lot of these minifigure faces around, you start seeing the more interesting face designs. You've got Sparkly Edward, you've got Alice with vampire eyes, which just feels a little bit more interesting in and of itself, and Bella's got an ever so slightly different blank face. I've complained before that when it comes to adapting actual human females, mostly actors, for LEGO faces, the LEGO designers don't tend to give them as much expression and character and unique features as you would get from a male minifigure. And in fairness, if you do look at Ashley Greene and Kristen Stewart in some photos of their respective Twilight roles, they do look very similar, but they are definitely not quite the same. Ashley Greene has a different shape of eye, and she's got more prominent cheekbones, and these are things that could have been accentuated for a LEGO minifigure, but instead, no, it's just a generic minifigure female face. Kristen Stewart as Bella has a particularly recognisable face. I mean, all of the haters latched onto the fact that she had that slightly open-mouthed look for some of the production photos, and for some reason that was something to mock her for. But that kind of face would work perfectly in minifigure form and identify her as being Bella Swan without needing to just stick to the generic kind of half smirk that you see on all of these female faces. Indeed, I tried an experiment. I decided to take 10 minutes and some image editing software and see if I could come up with a face for a Bella Swan minifigure that looks more like Kristen Stewart. The result is not perfect, absolutely. I mean, I only spent 10 minutes on this, but I do feel like it is significantly more recognisable as Kristen Stewart than the face that we are getting in this box. And hey, wouldn't you know it, if you look at Lobster Thermidor's initial design for the Cullen House and the minifigure for Bella Swan there, she looks significantly more like Kristen Stewart in these photos. Somewhere along the way, a graphic designer got hold of this and blandified her. This, I think, is my main problem with this LEGO set. It's not that it's necessarily bad, it's not that it's necessarily really controversial and different, it's just kind of bland. It's basic. It's had all of the edges sanded off it, and it is the most generic version of this set. Frankly, I feel like Twilight fans deserve better. I feel like architecture fans deserve better. I feel like this could have been a really neat LEGO set, and it just falls a little bit flat for me. Also, I'm not sure what's going on with brick-built werewolf Jacob here, but he does seem to be suffering from the same ailment as LEGO Jaws, in that the adaptation from fan design to official set has made him a lot cuter, a lot derpier, and just kind of funny looking. Now, I do want to point out some things that I really love about this set as well. As said, I feel like the inside of this set looks a little bit less sparse than the original design. There's a little bit more going on. It's just a little bit cozier, which I don't think is necessarily the vibe that you want for the Hoke House, but at the same time, it does feel like it's going to be a more fun set to put together than just having a lot of empty space in there. That's a good-looking LEGO bookshelf. That's a good-looking grand piano that's along with it. I'm really excited to get a closer look at some of these album covers here because they look fantastic, and an indication that not all of the graphic design in this LEGO set is quite so basic and generic, because there's definitely some fun to this as well. I quite like, although this may be polarising, the fact that the footprint of the set has been neatened and tidied somewhat so that it takes up a little bit less space, and that's going to be really useful for anybody who does want to put this set into a lineup of other buildings. For example, if you want your LEGO Cityscape to have a funky modern house, this is going to work very well. It's going to slot in very nicely because it doesn't have all of the extraneous stuff on the base. I just feel like if you look at Lobster Thermidor's initial design, there's a mood and an atmosphere and an ambience there that is lacking from the finished build. And initially I was willing to chalk that up to, well, it's LEGO. How is LEGO going to adapt something that's got slightly horrific undertones? But then I thought about the Stranger Things LEGO sets, and I felt, actually, the LEGO group has done that quite well in the past and had something that feels cute and adorable and fun, while also feeling a little bit spooky, a little bit creepy, and managing to maintain that kind of horror-ish atmosphere. But I don't know, I can't tell with this one if it's just that first impression, and that if I actually built the set I would have a completely different opinion of it. Indeed, we will be having a review for the set coming up at some point in the next few weeks, so definitely check that out and see whether or not my opinion has changed once I've actually had the opportunity to build it myself, because I'm genuinely interested to see if maybe I'm just being overly critical of something that the LEGO group hasn't really shown off in its best possible light. Quite aside from anything else, they made a conscious choice to show us the more boring faces of these minifigures more prominently than the vampire eyes that they have on the back, and that I feel like might be enough for me to give this thing the benefit of the doubt and feel like actually if it's not being presented in the most generic way possible, maybe there's something else going on here. But we will have to wait and see. For the moment, I just feel like this one is slightly a letdown. I'm hesitant to lump this in with the BTS set as being a set that doesn't feel like it's really for the core LEGO audience, but at the same time, I don't really know why we're getting a Twilight set in 2025. It doesn't feel like the right moment in time for this particular fandom. In addition to letting us know your thoughts in the comments, please do all of the rest of the YouTube things and give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe and the notification bell, because it does genuinely help out the channel. And if you are going to be purchasing any LEGO in the near future from lego.com, we have an affiliate link down in the description and a QR code that is currently on screen. They take you straight to the LEGO website. If you make a purchase through those links, it really helps out the channel because we get a little bit of the percentage of the sale. Doesn't cost you a penny extra, but helps keep the lights on here. Also, make sure that you go to brickfanatics.com for all of your coverage of all things LEGO, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and have a lovely day.